It's just another Tuesday night here in the United States of America, and NASCAR has conveniently posted their penalty report. 6 o'clock Eastern. Interesting timing. Anyways, we have the fallout, I guess, of what happened at Martinsville on Sunday during the NASCAR Cup Series elimination race that determined our championship four, the four drivers that will fight for a championship. There was a lot of controversy on Sunday night when Austin Dillon and Chastain presumably blocked the field from passing William Byron because if Byron lost one spot, he was out of the playoffs. Well, then it escalated to if Christopher Bell gains a spot, then he's in the playoffs. And Bubba Wallace, who had just gotten 20 laps or so before, mysteriously started slowing down when they realized no one was going to pass Byron. And Bell made up the position on Bubba Wallace. And then Bell did a quarter wall ride and got a safety violation. So it didn't matter. But yes, it still matters. It's still bad. But the penalty report has come out. I'm going to read you that report, read you the team's statements, talk about some other potential fallout, talk to you about some more of the details, and then I'll give you some opinions. And I'm sure you have your own opinions, so let me know in the comments. NASCAR penalized the numbers 1, 3, and 23 Cup Series teams for member conduct violations during Sunday's race at Martinsville Speedway. After an investigation of the on-track data and team scanners from the final laps of Sunday's round of 8 elimination race, NASCAR determined the actions of those involved violated sections 4.4b and d, NASCAR member conduct of the rulebook, which include race manipulation and actions detrimental to stock car racing. Ooh, those are the magic words right there, baby. Drivers Chastain, Austin Dillon, and Bubba Wallace were each hit with a loss of 50 driver points and a $100,000 fine. In addition, NASCAR also fined the owners of each team $100,000 and deducted 50 owners' points each. Crew chiefs Phil Surgeon, Justin Alexander, and Booty Barker, along with their respective spotters Brandon McReynolds, Brandon Benesh, and Freddie Kraft were all suspended for the season finale at Phoenix Raceway. Additionally, team executives Tony Lunders, Keith Rodden, and Dave Rogers were also suspended for the 2024 finale at Phoenix. And then in more important penalty news, Xfinity Series driver Chandler Smith of Joe Gibbs Racing was fined $10,000 for an altercation with Cole Custer. That's right, that slap was so ugly that he got fined $10,000. Okay, it wasn't because it was that ugly, it's because it was a fight. But I think that other reason is funnier because it was such a bad slap. Anyways, let's get back to the other stuff. There were some other things. A couple crew members for Kyle Busch's team got suspended, but that's standard. The wheel came off the car on the racetrack. Normal NASCAR suspension, typical. Ty Majeski missed a media obligation. He got fined money. Once again, that's pretty straightforward. But now to the big part. The 23, 1, and the 3 have all been penalized. In fact, the teams have already issued statements. RCR said Richard Childress Racing is disappointed in NASCAR's penalty against the number 3 team and plans to appeal. 2311 said, 2311 is aware of the penalty issued by NASCAR stemming from Sunday's race at Martinsville. We strongly feel that we did not commit any violations during Sunday's race, and we will appeal NASCAR's ruling. It's also like slanted a little bit, their press release, and it's bothering me. Anyways, Trackhouse, no official statement yet, but they are appealing the penalty. So all 3 teams are appealing. As for why, my guess is they don't want to admit guilt. I don't think it'll get overturned, but they don't want to admit guilt unless they have some mysterious piece of evidence that we haven't seen yet, and then maybe they'll be off the hook. But it will be a sped up process. Usually the appeals process can take weeks. Like you do the first appeal, there's a second appeal that you can do, and then there's a final appeal. And as I said, it could be a multi-week process. But since it's suspensions and since it has to do with this year and there's only one race left, they're going to determine this thing at the end of the week. So we should know by Thursday or Friday. Now, an interesting note here from Matt Weaver. He said that's an escalation in reference to the executives being penalized, NASCAR or team executives being suspended for the finale. He said that's an escalation, and Elton Sawyer is speaking to the media right now and said NASCAR will continue escalating the penalty if it feels this doesn't curb it. OEMs, or manufacturers, were not penalized directly because there's no direct mechanism in the rulebook for that right now. That's a big part at the end, right now. The NASCAR rulebook changes year over year, usually happens in the offseason, usually January. So maybe NASCAR looks into punishing manufacturers since they couldn't directly do it this time, because it was pretty clear that Chevrolet and Toyota did something here, and we don't want to see that in the future. So NASCAR had to put their foot down, or they wanted to, I'm sure, maybe, but at the end of the day, they couldn't. Now, another note from Elton Sawyer is that he said that NASCAR has discussed suspending drivers and that it's possible in the future. Now, not for this case specifically. Chastain, Dillon, and Bubba Wallace, they will all be racing this Sunday at Phoenix. But if this situation comes up again, there's a very good chance that the driver could be included in the punishment, included in the suspension, the lineup, the crew chief, the spotter, team executive, driver. So we could expand this thing out further to really send a message. Now, as for the fallout of the points penalties, 50 points for each, honestly, the biggest punishment here is Austin Dillon. He falls from 28th to 33rd. Bubba Wallace and Ross Chastain have been 17th to 19th. The highest they can both get is 17th. The lowest they could get is 19th because they're so far ahead of 20th. Chris Buescher is the other one in that mix. So, that's one spot. Chastain didn't even fall in the points. It just prevents him from moving up this week, if anything. And as for Bubba, he falls from 17th to 18th, but one spot. So, points, penalties, if you want my opinion. A penalty had to be done. Points, fines. It's $100,000, I think. What did it say? To the drivers and the team? Yeah, so the drivers got fined $100,000. The teams got $100,000. So $200,000 essentially. Hitting Chastain and Trackhouse, $200,000 for Dillon and RCR, $200,000 for 2311 and Bubba. But that's it. That's what I have to say here. That's it. I'm glad they penalized them. I applaud NASCAR for doing something and not just saying, oh, no, we didn't see anything. That would have been really bad. But I look back at the first Austin Dillon incident this year, ironically enough, and many people said, including myself, when that happened at August in Richmond, when that incident happened, when Austin Dillon wrecked two opponents to make it into the playoffs, many people said NASCAR has to put their foot down. They have to do something extreme here, or else they're opening up a can of worms that they don't want to open up. They're opening up Pandora's box, because if the precedent now is you can wreck people, you can obliterate people to advance in the playoffs, people are going to take advantage of that. And I applaud NASCAR. They did something extreme about it. They said, no, Austin Dillon, that was too far. You cannot do that. You're out of the playoffs. You get to keep the win, keep the trophy, keep the money, but you're out of the playoffs. That's too much for us. That's not a little. It is too far for us. They weren't quite ready, or they were not willing to make that same commitment here. And I'm not just talking about the 1, the 3, and the 23. I'm looking at the 24 team. Now, directly, the 24 team did nothing wrong. There was no radio chatter over the 24 that said, hey, the 1 and the 3 are lining up behind you and they're not going to pass you. Don't stress. You're fine. Or, Christopher Bell. I think there was some chatter on the radio, but I don't think it was as bad as the 3 team this year on the radio. They really just got to stop talking, man. They really just do. This spotter has been suspended twice now. But anyways, my point being is that when we look at Spingate, or everyone's looking back at Spingate, 2013, Boyer intentionally spins to get his teammate Martin Truex Jr. in the playoffs, and Truex's radio, they didn't tell the 56, they said, hey, the 15's spinning for you, congratulations. Truex didn't do anything wrong, it was his teammate, but it benefited Truex, and so therefore Truex was punished. In this situation, the 1 and the 3, they did something illegal. They manipulated the race, and they were punished for it. Rightfully so. However, the 24 was the beneficiary of this race manipulation and no punishment. That's my biggest problem with this penalty report, is the lack of punishment for the 24, the beneficiary of this race manipulation. I feel like, honestly, you could have gone harder on the punishment for the 1, the 3, and the 23. You could have fined them more, points them more. You could have suspended the drivers like they talked about. And yes, it's not possible to punish the manufacturers as of now. That could change. But I think they should have been punished somehow, some way. Chevrolet, Toyota, and Ford, they have a lot of power. They are the only 3 manufacturers in NASCAR. Everyone is including myself, we are all very thankful that they are providing parts, providing research and development, providing engines for these teams. They are the backbone, in a sense, of NASCAR, because without them, what would we do? We wouldn't be able to have cars out on the field. So we're all very thankful for them, yes, but they have a lot of power, and they have a lot of team meetings and whatnot, and we see it at the super speedways. It's expected. The Chevys are going to line up on one side. The Toyotas, they don't have enough numbers, so they kind of just got to figure themselves out. Then the Fords are in another line. Now with the choose line, you're going with a Chevy. You're going with a Ford. You're not going maybe you might not go with what's going to best advance your position. It's what can I do for my manufacturer? How can I get a Chevrolet to win this race? That's the most common occurrence of it. But at Martinsville, we don't really see manufacturer orders and stuff like that. Now, same situation with the restarts. If Larson's starting first and, Christopher Bell's second, William Byron lining up third, he's going to go with his teammate, first of all. But if it's Kyle Busch, he's going to go with his Chevrolet teammate. He's not going to go push Christopher Bell. He's not going to go help Christopher Bell. So we may see small things like that, but we're not going to see the 1 and the 3 road blocking for the 24 to advance. So if you want my full opinion kind of just crunched up, I know I just talked for like 15 minutes there, or however long it was, but if you want it all crunched up, is there had to be something done here. Very similar to the Austin Dillon Richmond situation, NASCAR had to put their foot down and they had to say, no, we will not tolerate this. And in August, they fully committed to it. They fully committed to punishing the 3 team and saying, we are keeping you out of the playoffs. You won the race. Yes, you did. But we will not accept winning in that fashion when it comes to advancing to the playoffs or in the playoffs. And they sent a message to everyone. That was a firm statement. Today was not a firm statement. The 1, the 23, and the 3 got punished. Okay, that's good. They should be punished for that race manipulation. The 3 car coming over the radio talking about, does the 1 know about the deal? If anything, the 1 they were guilty, don't get me wrong, but they were kind of collateral damage because in terms of the evidence, because the 3 called them out. But the 1 and the 3, there's blatant evidence. The 23, something must have been broke on the car that proved, or not broke on the car, that proved that he truly just slowed down to save the 20. And so when it comes to race manipulation, it's at the same extreme as Austin Dillon at Richmond. This should have been a firm, foot down, send a message to everyone. The manufacturers, the teams, the drivers, the crew chiefs, whoever you got to send a message to, you send that message. Message was not really sent with this punishment. I honestly think even if you added Chastain, Dillon, and Bubba to the suspension list, I don't think that would be a message sent either unless one of them was in the championship 4. I think the only way they could have sent a true message, a firm, this will never happen again in NASCAR, this will never, ever, ever, ever happen. The only way to get that to happen would have been punishing the 24, would have been punishing the 20, would have been excluding them both from the Final 4, which therefore would make it the championship 3. But then when you go further down the line, if you want to replace them with the next guy up, that's Larson. That's a Hendrick car. Okay, who's next? Oh, it's Hamlin. That's a Gibbs car. Who's next? Elliott. That's a Hendrick car. Well, now we got to dig all the way back to the round of 12? No, they're not going to do that. So the only firm, harsh punishment they could have done here was make it the championship 3. And NASCAR advertises it as the championship 4. every single time, because that's what it's supposed to be. The Championship 4 in this format. They got a hashtag for it. They got a little emoji for it. They've got logos for it. And changing it to the Championship 3, it would have been embarrassing for NASCAR to do that, honestly. For them to change their logoing, their branding, and to kick someone out for something he didn't even do, it would have been embarrassing for him. So from that perspective, I can understand why NASCAR didn't punishment. But from the other side of it, you just open a can of worms. You open a can of worms. This can happen now. Next week, if William Byron is leading the race, Kyle Larson's second, and Kyle Busch is third, and Ryan Blaney is half a second quicker than Byron, but as long as Kyle Busch and Kyle Larson just sit side by side and slow down Blaney and don't let him by, all right, William Byron's your champion. You can't do anything about it. You can fine Kyle Larson. You can fine Kyle Busch. You can dock them points. You can suspend their crew chiefs. William Byron, Chevrolet, Hendrick Motorsports, they're still the champions. That's what you're saying can happen next week. Just saying. That's all, I think. Any other fallout, any other potential penalties that come from this, which I don't think will. I guess we got the appeal coming up. I'll let you know. Once again, I think the only reason those teams are appealing is because they don't want to admit guilt, unless they have some just mind-blowing evidence we didn't see. But yeah, I don't think NASCAR sent a strong enough message here. That's just my opinion, though. Very curious to hear everyone else's opinions. But once again, very convenient timing. Please be safe out there. Please be nice to each other. It's a very tense time right now, so just please be nice. Everyone's allowed to have different opinions about things. No need to get mean. No need to get harsh. No need to get absurd. Just be kind to one another. If someone disagrees with you, say, hey, I disagree, but, here's why. Be civil about it, I guess. Anyways, I'm rambling on now. I'll let you guys go. Have a good evening. Have a good rest of your week. And we got the championships this weekend. Tomorrow, I'll do my trucks preview. Thursday, my Xfinity preview. Friday, my Cup preview. And then we got the Trucks Championship Friday night. Saturday night, Xfinity. Sunday afternoon, Cup.